And this is another area of disagreement with us, is that I've heard
Okay.
you say in a couple of TikToks that you believe that men peak in their late 30s.
Yeah,
Can
I
you
would
tell me a
say
little bit
that
about
there
that?
are a lot of guys that I know that have reached their, sexual market peak, 37,
Mm.
38, 39, 40. I mean, I know a guy that's 42 that's just he's insane. Like, he's got really good genetics, he's loaded, he doesn't wanna settle down, he's got lots of women in his life.
When do you think the average guy can expect to be peak mate value?
Well, I mean, like, the average guy never peaks, if we're being honest. The average guy just kind of, like, sleepwalks through life in a lonely misery of very average women that don't really complement their life. Like, that is the average guy's life. It's not good.
But when do
I
you
think
think
if you
what age do you think the average guy is going to have the most options? Because I think we
I think if the
probably
average guy does the work on himself, chases excellence, becomes competent, is captivating. Like, I think that guys, if they do the work on themselves, mid 30s, late 30s is entirely plausible for you to be at your peak. Whereas with women, they can look very, very attractive in their late 30s, even 40s. I mean, there's even 50-year-old women out there that are very attractive, but they're not as hot as their 23-year-old self. And when you
So for me, again, it's about looking at behavior,
Mhm.
right? So I agree with you that for some men, especially if they're, career maxing, as an incel might say, maybe they do, yeah, maybe they do peak later. But here's just the cold reality of it. A lot of these guys in the red pill space, they're in their late 20s, they're in their early 30s, right? And they haven't really succeeded with women yet. And so
Mhm.
they're telling themselves this story. I'm not saying you're doing this. You're obviously, at a different stage in life, but they're telling themselves the story. Oh, the best days are yet to come. The best
Mhm.
days are yet to come. And it's like, mate, the best days already passed you by. If you look at when women peak in terms of, you would say their sexual market value, I would say mate value. I would say that a variety of evidence converges on it being in their 20s. Not going off of what people say. It's just, when do men compete most intensely
Mhm.
over mates, right? And it's over that group of mates. It's women in their 20s, right? I'm not saying
Yeah.
that this is how I want the world to be, right? I'm just saying, from a cold, apathetic reading of the data, this is when female mate value or women's mate value seems to peak in our species. Who do these women select? These are the women with the most selective power. They can choose whoever they want to be with. Who do they select? They select other men in their 20s.
Mhm.
When they're going on a dating app, most of them are filtering out men over 30, let alone men in their late 30s. Okay.
That's true, but they do get to a point at some point where they realize that a lot of these younger guys aren't doing it for them, and then they start
Some of
to
them do.
expand that reach.
Yeah.
Maybe, like, instead of 3 years older, it goes to 5 years older, maybe 7 years older, maybe
Yeah.
10 years older.
Yeah. Yeah. But
And it's
even
not
then,
entirely
let's say, well, let's
uncommon
take
for
10,
women
let's
in their
take,
20s to date, older guys, right?
yeah. No, no, no. Older is normal. Older is older. But hey, cope aside, I'm talking about uncomfortable truths,
Mhm.
right? Uncomfortable truth is that men also peak relatively young. Genuine desire as a man, you're going to be much more likely to get that when you're in your 20s, when you're actually as physically attractive as you get. So this is.
I don't know, man. I've had genuine burning desire, throughout my life many times, and
Oh,
it's
I'm sure you have. I'm sure
and
you
it's
have. No, no, I'm not.
obvious,
I'm not.
right?
But we're
Like, it's
talking about.
not
We're
like,
talking
it's not
about.
confusing.
We're talking about the average. Yeah, we're talking. We're not talking about you. We're talking about the average guy.
Yeah.
All right. What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to another video, guys. In today's video, this is going to be, I made a video about the age pill, and I feel like that video is pretty long. So somebody emailed me and asked me can I make a specific video about the male peak? And I thought that was a good request, So in this video today, I want to talk about the male peak. Now, the clip that I just played is a very, very good clip. Very good clip. This is how red pill copers, this is what they do. They lie to men to get you to buy into their paradigm so that you stay stuck watching their YouTube videos. You stay stuck purchasing their coaching program. A lot of these red pill guys are preaching to men who've already missed out. A brutal pill to swallow. These guys are they have this fantasy that they're gonna get their revenge in their late 30s. They're gonna get revenge. All those people who had a good youth, who enjoyed their early 20s, and those people I'm going to pass those people by while they grow up to be depressed adults, while I fly around on a private jet like I'm Andrew Tate. This is the fantasy. It's all a fantasy, guys. So I want to talk about the male peak. Now, this is my official video on the stance. This is my official statement on what I think about the male peak attractiveness. Now, when we talk about money, we're not talking about money, guys. I know a lot of these red pillars, they will tell you, oh, your peak financially, when you're at your sexual market value peak is in your late 30s. And the problem with this is that it's not that it's technically a lie, because yes, your value financially will probably increase over time. No brainer. I mean, even women's financial value increase over time. That's just common sense. But they don't tell you the full truth. Like I said before, a lot of these red pillars, these marketers, what they do is they say truths, but then they feed you lies at the same time. They twist and warp the truth to fit their narrative, to get you to buy into their own paradigm and get you to purchase their course, follow them, buy their products, and they become the gurus, guys. It's all a game. Social media is all a game, guys. It's all a game. Now, avoid thinking in black and white. I always tell you guys this, but avoid thinking in black and white. Remember, all of this stuff, guys, comes down to genetics at the end of the day. In these videos, I'm speaking generally. I'm not speaking to you individually because I don't know your situation. I don't know your genetics. I don't know your family history. I don't know anything about you. So I can't speak to you specifically. So you have to do your own thinking. You have to do your own processing of the information. Never just take words blindly, guys, even from me, because remember, a lot of times I'm speaking generally. So your individual situation may be different. And I just wanted to put that out there. But generally, these things are facts. And you can use generalizations to give you context to make decisions for your life. I'm not saying that you need to use what I say or use what somebody else says as the end all be all, but you can use this as reference points to make your own decisions for your own life. That's what it's about. So when it comes to male peak, guys, men peak attractiveness wise between 25 to 30 years old. Yes, men peak between the ages of 25 to 30 years old. Sometimes it drags out. We can say 25 to 32, early 30s. This is your peak attractiveness when it comes to physical attractiveness, your strength. I'm not talking about getting on TRT or using drugs. This is where the male, you're at your peak. By this time in your late 20s, you should have a career. If you don't have a career right now in your late 20s, sorry to break it to you, bro, but you're behind. What have you been doing for the last 10 fucking 12 years, bro? Sorry, that's some tough love. But what have you been doing? You should have a career going for yourself right now. You should be at least making decent money right now, where you're able to live a decent life. You're at your physical attractiveness peak. And one thing I want to say about your physical attractiveness peak is, guys, you have to take in mind the context of the advice that people give. Some people will tell you, hey, man, I wasted my 20s and I rose up in my 30s. But it's like, mate, your best days have pretty much passed you by. Stop coping. Just because you didn't take advantage of your peak, you can't shift the goalposts because you didn't self-improve or you didn't look smacks or whatever in your early 20s, in your mid 20s, your late 20s, just because you didn't actually capitalize on your peak potential. You can't shift the goalposts now to like, oh, well, I just leveled up in my 30s and look at me now, bro. And it's like, yeah, well, you wasted some of the best years of your life, you asshole. So the advice is very the advice is very contextual. So you have to remember, guys, you can't just listen to people and take shit for face value. You have to look at the man's timeline, right? So like, if we look at just pure science, pure biology, pure nature, the male peak attractiveness is in your late 20s, somewhere in your late 20s. This is where the sperm, your fertility, everything is at its peak state in your late 20s, and your attractiveness. Even for myself, guys, I was my most attractive around 27. That's when I was at my most attractive. 27 was when I was at my peak attractiveness. Now I'm 31 years old, and the good thing is, now here's the good news. Your peak is just your peak. It doesn't mean that you peak and then you drop off. It doesn't mean that you just, hit the wall and you drop off. No. It's a slow decline, especially if you do take care of yourself, right? It's a slow, gradual decline, right? So that's the good thing about your peak. It doesn't mean necessarily that, oh, you peaked and then now it's over. It just means that this is the inflection point where things now, it's not going to go up any higher. Maybe, yeah, you earn more money, whatever, but we're talking about pure nature here. We're not talking about money. We're not talking about whatever status, wealth, old. Most women are not checking for old guys with money. Trust me, guys. That shit is dead. That is a cope. Women are not checking for old men with money. They're checking for young men who are closer to their age range, maybe 4 years difference, plus or minus. And that's it. That's what women are looking for. Because remember, go back and watch the age pill video that I made. Women, I broke down the science in that video. There's a reason that sperm banks basically don't accept sperm older than 35. There's a reason for that, because there's a genetic quality to sperm. There's plenty of research. I'll put papers in the links in the description below. There's plenty of research showing that a lot of the genetic defects of childbirth and of kids are linked to the father, the age of the father, and the sperm quality of the father. So no, it's not men age like fine wine. Men peak around in their late 20s. This is when you're at your best. I was actually at my strongest around 27, 26, and I'm still strong now. Like, let's be honest, I probably could outperform a lot of my audience, no shade. But, I realized that, my body, I'm noticing changes. Not like, again, like I said, it's not like drastic drop off changes where like now, I'm just an old man. It's just like, no, I noticed like little things like working out in the gym. I may get a little bit tired quicker, or I may stay sore for maybe a day or two longer, or I notice like little aches and pains, in my back or whatever. I got to get more massages and take better care. Like, so I'm noticing these things, I'm noticing that my body is aging, and this is why I'm saying the peak, because now after that point, up until your late 20s, you don't notice anything. You don't notice any aging whatsoever, but after that point, you do start to notice. And another thing that I want to point out, guys, is there is something called the social clock. A lot of you guys may not have ever heard of this, but it's called the social clock. The social clock refers to the age norms and expectations that come with age. Now, what do I mean by this? I'm not telling you that you got to live your life by society or what people tell you to do, but guys, you have to understand that most people are playing by the social clock, meaning that they're playing by the timeline that is the most optimal, right? And there is an optimal timeline, but a lot of people say, "Oh, that's blue pill, dude." Trust me, the social clock is actually the best, almost the best clock in terms of having kids, having a family. The expectations of trying to get your success, get a job, get a career. By your late 20s, you find a partner and you guys start thinking about a family. That is not cope. That is not like, oh, you're selling out too early. No, that is actually from a natural standpoint, a nature standpoint, that is the most optimal thing to do. But the social clock is the social pressure that is put on people by society, the social clock. Because, as a 40-year-old man, if you're on dating apps trying to date 20-year-old women, that's not going to fly. Most women that age will see you as a creep. Women are going to look at you kind of like, what's this old ass geezer doing on dating apps trying to date college age girls? Because there's a social clock, you see. So you can't, a lot of the decision making isn't necessarily all biological, guys. Some of this is actually a socio-cultural aspect as well. You have to think about that, because like I said, most women date within their own age range. Most people are dating within 4 plus or minus years of their own age range, right? So we know this to be the truth. That is a part of the social clock, right? It's not to say that a 40-year-old can't date a 23-year-old, which is, I think that's kind of weird in my opinion, but it's not to say it can't happen. It's to say that it's not the social norm. It's not the norm. And that matters. These red pillars like to tell you, oh, you don't worry about society. dude, you got to play the game. You know, if you want to get far in life, let me tell you guys, you got to play the game. You're going to need to kind of blend in. You know, I'm not telling you that you got to agree with everything society tells you to do, but you have to play the game. You have to. There's certain things you just can't get away with, you know, in society, unless you just go live, be a hermit and live in the offskirts of society and just resign from society. There are just certain things that you have to follow, you know. And so there's a certain age regarding behaviors, you know, like if you're a 40-year-old out getting drunk, trying to party with a bunch of college kids, even though there's technically nothing wrong with it, there is a social norm. That is a norm that people will be looking at you like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? Shouldn't you be like, you know, flying kites with your kids? Or if you're a bachelor, shouldn't you be like, I don't know, like doing something else? Like you shouldn't be here, you know? You know, that's like a 30-year-old trying to go back to college and thinking that because, oh, Rollo Tomasi said, because I'm 30, I'm at my peak. So if he goes back to college, man, he'll be the reject on campus. He'll be the reject on campus. You know, maybe I'm not saying he can't get laid. I mean, there might be a girl or two who just don't care, who's drunk or whatever, and they hook up. But you're not going to go to college and slay. The people who are going to be slaying are the young, athletic, attractive men on campus. The tall, handsome, young, athletic men on campus. You know, athletes, even some of the frat boys, whatever. That's who are going to be doing well because those are the people who have the most social value on campus. So I just wanted to point that out, guys, that there's a social clock. You know, as you get older, there's new challenges, there's new demands, there's new structures in society. You get older, your psychological waiting till you're 35 to now try to go and get laid and live up to your vow. It's too late. It's too late, bro. It's too late because psychologically you've probably already passed that point where you don't care anymore. You don't place value on random sex anymore as you probably did when you were younger and you just wanted to kind of prove yourself. A lot of men need to they have this thing where a lot of men want to go prove that they can hunt, you know, and I say hunt, not to say women are a piece of meat, but I'm saying they want to go and see okay, can I attract girls, you know? And this is a young man's game. That's a young guy's game, you know? So I just wanted to make this video, guys, that, you know, the male peak in terms of everything, you know, like I said, if you're in your late 20s, bruh, and you don't have a career going for yourself, if you don't have anything going for yourself, no career, if you're not making good money, you're behind, bro. You're behind. You fucked up. You know, what have you been doing? You know, right now you should be thriving. You know, in your late 20s, you should be thriving in your late 20s. I told you guys this when I turned I said this before in my older videos. I took some of those videos down, but right around 25 and 26, I told you guys this, something changed. It was like I had kind of reached a point where I had got my job. My career was kind of starting to take off. I was making good money. I could afford to buy clothes. I was at my most attractiveness, like my peak. I'm not saying I'm hit the wall and I'm old and ugly now. No, I'm saying that was my peak. That was when there was an inflection point where I'm not probably going to go any higher, you know? So I hit my point where I was socially competent. I had enough experience with dating, with socially. I had confidence because I had already kind of experienced a little bit of life by your mid 20s. That is your peak, guys. And again, if you're not there, I'm not saying you can't catch up. Remember, if you're in your late 20s and you're behind, if you're 30 and you're behind, that's fine. I'm not saying you can't play catch up, but realize you are behind, bro. You're behind. You fucked up. You know, and you need to admit that. People try to spin everything into a positive. I talked about this. People want to spin everything into a positive, bro. If you're in your 30s, that's a good thing, bro. Now you're behind, bro. Embrace the aspect that you're behind. You fucked up. You wasted some of the best years of your life. Right now, you should be rising up high. You should be in a really good spot. You fucked up. And so now you got to say, okay, well, now I got to, you know, sacrifice the next couple of years to try to get myself together. But make no mistake, your peak has passed you. Your peak has passed you by. Sorry to break it to you. Your peak has passed you by. Now, remember, I'm not saying that it's all downhill, it's going to go down. No, it's a very slow, gradual decline. But the important part is this. The peak is not in your mid and late 30s. You know, a lot of people want to say, oh, you're going to keep rising and keep peaking until you're 36. And then it's a slow. No, it's actually 10 years younger. And then it's a slow from 27, 26, 25, your late 20s, basically from 25 to 30. There's a peak somewhere in there. And then from there, there's a slow, very, very slow gradual decline. Granted, if you're, take into account genetics, health, etc., shit happens. Sometimes you genetically. You might get sick or a health issue. Like there's things that happen, right? So you can't bank on that. But just understand that the male peak is in your late 20s. This is where things come together. You know, people want to tell you, oh man, no, things start coming together in your late 20s. That is in your late 30s. Dude, that is a load of shit. Anybody will tell you that is a load of crap except the red pillars and the managed for people, because they want to sell you on that. They're all coping. A lot of these guys are divorced. They want to believe, you know, these guys were simps in their younger days. Guys, you have to realize a lot of these older guys didn't have the knowledge that we have as young men. A lot of us are wise beyond our years because of the internet. But a lot of these dudes were simping. A lot of these guys were just like dumbasses, if we're being honest. A lot of these dudes were wifing up hoes and then having 2 kids and then getting cheated on and getting divorced, you know. And then they want to say, oh, well, see, I'm more valuable now because I wasn't getting laid in my. It's like, no, motherfucker, you just fucked up. You just screwed up if you actually look at it. So it's a lot of coping. So anyway, guys, I just wanted to make this video. That's my official stance. Again, like I said, the peak isn't, I'm not saying that, oh, you're going to hit the wall, but you realize your peak is in your late 20s. It's from like 25 to 30 is when you are technically at your peak best. And from there, if you take care of yourself, if you do the right things, there is a slow, gradual decline. I'm not saying that your dating life is going to fall off the cliff as you get in your late 30s, guys. No. In your late 20s, once you're past your peak, no. You know, you still, like, you're still going to have a good life, guys. You know, a lot of people are fucking retarded. They think, when they hear peak, they think, oh, it's all downhill. It's like, no, you dumbass. A peak is just a point in time where everything kind of reaches its max potential. And then there's a slow ride. You just kind of ride off into the sunset kind of thing, you know? Now, again, will your money increase? Yes. Could you simp and, you know, simp for girls and like use your money? Yes. But we're talking about genuine attraction, natural attraction, not artificially created attraction with game and money and trickery and manipulation. No, we're talking about just raw, authentic attraction. And another aspect of aging, and I mentioned this as well, is that, guys, you have to understand a part of the social clock is a lot of people are going to be getting out the game, you know? So you're going to be left kind of picking through the scraps, if we're being honest. And I'm talking about men and women, because a lot of men are just as jaded and bitter as women. You know, like I said this before, as a man, if you stay in the dating game too long, you will end up jaded, bitter, and just kind of a shell of a person, because you've just been hollowed out from dealing with just so many different women, so many different issues, and you're just going to be burnt out. So the same thing happens. So a lot of people are going to be getting out the game for that social clock. A lot of people, I've realized this, that I've noticed that some of the best women I've met are off the market. You know, these women are off, they're out of the game. They're wifed up, about to have a kid, they're married, whatever, you know. And I'm not saying there's not good women out there, but I'm saying that you have to take that into account too, that people are getting off the market quickly, you know. So you gotta make your mind up what you want to do. You know, do you want a family? Because right now in your late 20s, if you want a family, your late 20s is the time to really start considering that and start making moves towards that in your late 20s, not your late 30s, bruh. Are there exceptions to the rule? Yes, we're talking generally, you know, but your late 20s is the time where now it's like, okay, you can meet a partner. The market around your age range, remember, plus or minus, people want to date within their age range. Between your age range, right now, you have the most liberty. You know, at 28, you could technically date a 24-year-old who's fresh. She's been out of college for a couple years. She's ready to kind of settle down, 4 years, whatever. Some women are pushing back their clock too. I'm not saying that's not happening, but a lot of the best women who want families, who want love, who want real, genuine companionship, you know, if you're 28, you could easily date 24, 25, or even a little bit older, maybe a 30-year-old, right? But that's kind of like the sweet spot. You know, once you're out of that phase, you start to kind of get squeezed, you know, and it gets more difficult. You get new challenges, new problems. Like I said, I do think you can enjoy right off into the sunset. You know, if you're self-improving, your attractiveness, you're going to be the most attractive in your late 20s. You know, if you're a guy and you're a slob and you just wasted your 20s, okay, you missed your peak, bro. You missed your peak, but you can still artificially create a peak, because since you didn't really capitalize, you can still say, okay, well, I'm 30 years old. I haven't done anything. I'm broke. I'm ugly. I haven't improved. I haven't done anything to better myself. Okay, I'm going to get better. Sure, you can get better, but it doesn't take away the fact that you fucked up and you've missed out on some of the best years where you were at your physically peak, where you could have really, really, really been at your peak to see like what your true potential was, right? So I'm not saying it's over. So understand that, guys. Life is still beautiful. I've loved getting older. You know, I'm not saying this as a cope either. When you're young, there's so much pressure, you know, from all different angles. As you get older, you start to really embrace the truth about yourself, about life, and you start to kind of free yourself. You know, you become psychologically free. You're no longer living in the shadow of your parents. You're a grown man now. And I think aging for me has been amazing, you know. There's just certain things that come with age. You stop caring about peer pressure. You stop caring about, oh, do girls like me? You stop. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing if you're in that phase, but you grow out of that, you know. And when you grow out of those things comes psychological freedom. You become less bogged down by, okay, am I going to make it? Am I going to make it my career? Like you're just not, you know, you're in your early 20s, late teens. There's a lot of pressure, you know, there's a lot of pressure placed on men and women, not just men and women, both. But as you get older, you start to kind of embrace the truth about yourself. You know, you realize that, okay, I'm probably not going to be the next Jeff Bezos. I'm probably not going to be the next Bill Gates, you know? So, and with that comes a type of freedom, a type of liberty, you know, where you really start to truly live your life for you, you know? So it's complicated stuff. But anyway, that is it for today's video, guys. I will see you in the next one.